Well, hello there. It's Tuesday, August 25th, 2026. Just could not quite find a good place to record anywhere. Got some things on my mind. Yeah, there's nothing like porta potties in the background for the video. Yeah, great. Thanks for the scenery. Um, a little out of it, a little tired. Dog kept me up a little bit. She's back from she had a little eyelid surgery, was in a cone for a couple of weeks. Just, I don't know, took it out yesterday, and she just, I don't know, a little still on like the drowsy from some of the meds and stuff like that, and just a little, it was a little crazy, but she's a sweet dog, but just a little, yeah. Anyway, what else? Yeah, had visited my parents yesterday. They're always like give me a whole bunch of food. I took a bottle of wine too, and yeah, just the didn't really sleep great because of that too. I think, man, have I gotten fat and gained weight, and I think I've talked about this, but yeah, I think I have reached the point of, man, I got to get a handle on this. It's that accumulation of just that gradual not feeling well, where it's now built up into a very honest, reflective moment of, man, I got to really get this under control now. I've done it before. I can do it again. But I can't keep doing the flip flopping where it's like you have a couple of good days and then you're like, oh, I just want to have something to drink, whatever, or just eat junk. The grocery store donuts are on sale. I'll grab a box and eat the whole thing because I want that sugar rush, right? Just like, no, man, it's, yeah, the weight gain, like the temporary sugar rush, whatever, and then just like feeling awful after, just not sleeping well, all that stuff, it eventually combines together and you're like, man, this does not. Anyway, I think I've probably explained it well enough. You understand, of like, I reached the point where, yeah, I gotta, man, I got, after I record this, go back home and upload it, I'm going to go have a nice little workout. Can't do a whole lot because of my shoulder blade, but, you know, the few things you can do it well. And maybe do some sled pushes, get like some intense cardio, have a nice meal after, and start doing some interview prepping. Which is the next thing. Some interesting developments. It actually came through LinkedIn. I'm trying to find how it happened where, okay, I started focusing on kind of learning, like spending now more time with Palantir Foundry, and what I was thinking is, well, maybe I could, this could tie into like AI agent payments where you'd make something, you'd have your AI agent pay for something like that would be done in like Palantir. Just, I don't need to get into the whole thing why, but whatever special data analysis it can do. And I saw that they made this new project where it's like a super duper repo, and at this point, I've got enough pattern recognition where, all right, if something is new, they flat out tell you in the, like on all the documentation of like, yeah, this is early, this is beta, but this is how we envision things to be going with the coding platformy side. Did I already talk about all this? Anyway, maybe I did. Anyway, I guess I'll finish the thread of like, well, if they're kind of saying this is where things are going and it's early. Seemed like a good opportunity to jump in and learn something, try to build a little project, not just like learn and let it go. And definitely thanks to Grok, I did like a little investigation desk, like something that might look like what a real thing in this would be. So went with that, learned a lot. You know, you kind of reach the limitations of, well, it doesn't have a lot of support for stuff. It will down the line, but I think this is good enough. Made a video, released it, and I think it's actually off of LinkedIn where I started getting some connections, which I think is a good, oh, is this going to start getting really hot? Which I think is a good sign where, okay, you know, like this new social media approach and just, all right, if I'm going to make a tech demo on something, I probably shouldn't ramble for 15 minutes. You know, like, let's shorten it up. It's all right, very few people are ever going to be watching these long things. You have to take into account the different audiences. So in general, just this new approach and like really trying to post on LinkedIn only if it's like, is this something that's going to make me look more good? Make my good points go up. But anyway, yeah, I got some interesting connections off of that. One was a recruiter, and one is from yeah, it's like a recruiter for Palantir of all places, which I was a little surprised of. I thought like, oh, is this like spam? It's this lady messaged me and like, oh, send your thing to my email here, and yeah, I mean, lo and behold, it's like the real thing. And just from people who they're like this other company that does similar work where it's like forward deployed engineering, where they go into like places and create solutions for people and help them solve problems, and they're like a certified partner, I guess. But yeah, I talked to so here's the thing, so very unexpected. So here's the thing. So the recruiter is like, you know, I thought like, all right, is this spam? Is this just like a joke? And yeah, okay, this seems to be real. And it was an interesting situation where she just said like, oh, I'm interested in your resume because of your public service and kind of interest in crypto and stuff like that. So, and she said like, I see you're in for the fellowship, but if you want to like submit an application for this one position, I'd happy to flag it and take a call with you. So the rub is that job is in New York, which I thought about it a little bit hypothetically. And, you know, I think maybe in another phase of life, if I was younger, if me and my wife were younger and you're like, all right, let's go on an adventure. I mean, provided, you know, I'm just kind of thinking out loud, like if I had gotten this, would get this position and like, you know, relocate to New York. But yeah, I think that would come with a lot of challenges, and I don't think that's, you know, and you figure just like, even like if you get paid more, like between taxes and how much stuff costs, and like depending on where you want to live and your commute, like there's a lot of factors that I think you understand where it kind of becomes more, all right, is this, man, I know I'm just like, problem is now that the sun's come up, I'm like, this is just gonna completely make this oh boy, really great oh, thank you for the shuffling of the sound of this. That's why we do it this way here. We don't have to edit it here. We're doing it live. There we go. Now you can see all the disgusting contours of my fat old man face. But all right, this way, like it's not just pure sunlight shining on the camera and overheating the phone. Anyway, so I thought about it. and there's that thing where like, well, I had this brief thought of like, well, what if, so like, let's say I got this job and I decided to go out there myself for a year just to get experience. And well, as you would imagine, I mean, I don't think that would be good for my marriage. And like, I mean, I don't know. It's just like, you're like now in what, a long distance marriage? Like it'd be, and I don't know. I think just in general, man, I think the novelty of moving out there would really wear off. And I think the long-winded point is I thought about it, thought of the different ways, like talked about it with the wife of like, how do you, what do you think that would look like? Just, yeah, that would be way too challenging. All of our family is here in Colorado. Like, just, I mean, I just don't think that now that would be worth it. So here's the rub, folks. Like, man, like if a recruiter contacts you first and whatever it is about your resume, your work history, your interests, like the way you're doing, like they're interested in having a chat. They've got enough curiosity for some reason about what you're doing that, I don't want to, you don't want to lead somebody on, but at the same time, don't want to pass up on, like, I don't know. Does it kind of make sense where I would probably be a fool to pass this up and have a phone call with somebody? I mean, it's like a 20-minute candidate screening call. So it's not even an interview or anything. It's it's somebody that I'm assuming they like find all sorts of people they're interested in for whatever reason. These are like short little calls, blah, blah, blah. Basically, I've had this feeling at first of like, I should just email her and say, well, I'm very interested in the job, which I am. It's like a forward deployed software engineer in their commercial side where they, and I'm probably not going to describe it well. Just imagine it like you go and you try to help somebody solve a problem using the tech. That's my understanding of it. Like the tech is almost in a way not secondary per se, but really with these forward deployed engineers, like all the versions of it now, really the goal I think is that you are there to help somebody solve a problem. You take ownership of like everything that entails, and the tech is just a tool to make that happen. And that's what I've gotten from some philosophical conversations with AI and stuff. I mean, maybe I'm completely misunderstanding it, but that's really what it is at the core of it. But anyway, that's what it's for. Genuinely interested in the job. But yeah, the location. But this person reached out to you first and just kind of like, oh, interested in your resume because of this. The ball is in your court. Okay, I mean, my goal so it's later this week. I've got a phone call. My goal with that is go in and make a really good impression as best as I can, especially extrapolating like what about my public service side that would translate to this that I can try to play up and talk about. And, I think ask some good questions, learn, and then at some point, just, you're going to have to be honest about hey, so it sounds like, it's something where I would have to live there. And so that's going to be the caveat that I can't do. So I figure there's a way to do this where you get to know somebody and they get to know you, and then you try to make a good impression. You show your interest and hopefully understanding of what this type of a role is, but you also there's like, hey, here's kind of my personal limitation. I mean, I would briefly thought, like, if they have a Denver office, would work out of that. And like, hey, if you want to like have me travel to New York, whatever, I would happily do it. But it's like the living there part, folks, that I can't do. So that's the angle that I'm going to go in. Just, I think it would be very, very unwise to, well, I just can't do this because of like the location where, it's, that would be a really bad missed opportunity where I think getting in somebody's Rolodex, if you will, for like a later possibility, that's the real goal. It's just, yeah, there's going to be the point of, hey, I can't quite move there, but I think doing that in the first phone screening call is probably the way to do it. But anyway, I think you get the point. Very unexpected. And the second thing was just somebody, it's like this company, they're an official, they're like an official partner or something, and they do similar work kind of in the industrial or something field. I have to look at their website a little bit closer with some of the stuff. Just like some of the advertising and corporate, not, I don't want to say corporate speak, but it's kind of like, all right, what are they actually saying with this? But I think they're more on the industrial whatever side, but a similar role. But had a phone call with the guy. Very nice. We spoke about 15 minutes. He kind of just gave me his history. I kind of talked about mine and just kind of the trajectory of worked in a library, got interested in crypto, kind of just, that didn't quite pan out. Just like looking at this other side, looking at this super repo thing. And I think that's what caught his attention, was like, oh, cool. I liked your video about that. So, great call, like just one of those little, phone calls where like in 15 minutes, you probably you have a good little relationship and connection with somebody, and you can tell that you gel, you vibe, whatever the term is. And he just was like, yeah, it seems like, yeah, this enjoyed talking to you. I mean, if you're interested further, like I can talk to the team, blah, blah, blah. So like, yeah, I mean, I've got a follow-up one now for tomorrow, which I'm going to be spending this evening and tomorrow kind of preparing more for it. This is where, I mean, it sounds like for this job, they're kind of all over, more on like the Western Hemisphere, but they're getting a lot of clients in the U.S. and maybe like need more people in the U.S. And I mean, I didn't quite ask, like, I didn't get the impression that you're working at a place, like maybe you work remotely, but then you fly out to like a client's site and do stuff and help them there, something like that. I mean, obviously I'll need to clarify, but it's just, they're doing well. I mean, in general, these forward deployed engineering type of jobs they're very hot and very much growing. So it's one of those, from a practical side, something where you might have a better chance of getting is worth exploring. And I just looked up what it is, because there's a decomp interview, which I think is not something I've heard before, but I looked it up and used AI to kind of get a good feel for what it is, where I'm glad I did that, where I was like, I noticed in the email, I was like, oh, what's this word? They basically give you a scenario, and it sounds like they have you go through of like finding a solution and like talking it out and such, and seeing how you go about, where it's like this vaguely defined scenario and outcomes, and like see how you go about it. And my impression from just some videos I watched and what research I've done with Grok is that the classic thing that you don't want to do is that you get told this thing and you immediately go to try to solve it. It's like the feel like that applies to a lot of things. It's the, having to find out what are they actually wanting to do. Like, who is this thing that you make the solution for? Who are going to be the users? Like, what's the data look like? Just what's like a first version that you can do? Things like that. It's funny enough, just so anyway, yeah, I've got to prep on that. Like, I've seen different versions of that, like different variations of how to approach it, but I'll just go with one. And I feel like I won't worry too much about I need to have the perfect answer. I think the real strength of it will just be like you go into it and like you try to ask, you try to clarify the goal and talk through stuff and dig deeper, and then, stuff like that. Not just they told you problem, you immediately try to solve it without kind of having all the information. So I think can't go wrong with that, right? But it was just interesting how at some point it really reminded me of like, what is it about this role that, from what I've learned about it in general, something about it appeals to me, where like what is it about it that there's something here that I almost saw parallels to me doing at the library when I was public facing tech support, where it's different, but there are some similarities. And what is it about it? Like, I think it's just that, when I was at the library, people would come to you with all sorts of problems, and you were the person that was there to help them. I mean, you could try to do some kind of like, oh, that's above my pay grade or something like that. But really, and why I think I did well personally was that, I don't know, I would genuinely just try to listen. Even if like the listening was like people would tell you about the personal problems in their life. You try to like find out what the actual issue is. Like, people would describe one thing, but when you find out like what they actually want to do, it's like they don't have the language to describe this, so they just say something way out there. But things like that, and just genuinely try to help people, like with whatever skills I had, and like trying to learn on the spot, this and that. Just try to generally help people, and that's what that was another one of those things that I realized, man. As much as I complained and this and that, what I do actually miss, I can't believe I'm saying this, what I miss, despite, the public would drive me crazy a little bit, sometimes a lot, but I do miss helping people. I do miss genuinely helping people where somebody comes in, you just take the time to help them, to listen, to try to find out, and, whatever little bit that you could do for them there, like you could see that it meant something for them. And I just really miss that. It is when you're in it and you have your moments and days of frustrations, you kind of take it for granted and almost don't see it, of like, there is something here that, does bring you enjoyment, and like you build a good reputation for. And I'm not saying that like, oh, I was so great and pat myself on the back, but you do build a reputation where people enjoy working with you, and people like ask about, oh, when's George next going to be in? Just something like that, where, that's where, I miss that. And that's where like I can see the parallels with this FDE type job. At least my interpretation of it, where it's like you go and you take ownership of like a problem for somebody, a client, a customer, a business, whatever. Really try to find out what they want to do and make a solution, some kind of a solution to improve stuff for them, however much you can. And so I kind of like, all right, I realized that, where, okay, maybe this is what appeals to me, and just something wasn't even familiar with what this job was until like sometime this year. And so yeah, how about that? I would say this little pivot of like, all right, this whole crypto thing didn't quite pan out. And I think doing more of this, I don't think I'm going to yeah, you get the point. I don't need to go over it again. I would say this little pivot and direction change to have had this kind of stuff this early happen. And again, I think overall the goal I'm trying to have, and I had this conversation with the one guy from the job, so not the recruiter, was that, whatever happens, because I am very, like, I know that I'm interested, I can learn quickly, blah blah blah, but I also know that I don't quite have the experience. So if it doesn't pan out, that's okay. My goal is just to go in, both with the recruiter, with this job, is just to try to make a good impression, not to like be a snob or like smug or whatever about it, but just to make a good, genuine impression, try to ask some good questions and learn, and hopefully just create like a connection with somebody where you now have like a little bit of a network of, hey, if not now, maybe for later, as I build my skill set and things like that, like something will come up. Or like, oh, hey, somebody over here is looking for, you might be a good fit for that. I think you get what I mean. Which, I mean, networking, I would say, I mean, it's always been big, but I think even more so now. So it's a part of man, you don't want to waste these opportunities, even if it doesn't result in something like in a job right now. Like, just getting your face out there in front of people so they get to know you, you know them, and now they know a person. And maybe down the line later, like somebody, or even they are going to be looking for somebody, and hey, you come to mind. So that's not to take for granted or to waste or brush off. But yeah, I think it's certainly to have this kind of stuff go my way, even if it's like interesting, curious stuff that was unexpected, this early, I would say, is a good sign. It's a positive sign that this is probably a good direction to be going with. And very unexpected. It's, I don't know, it's something that's been thinking about that a lot of, I held on to the crypto thing. It was this source of like, all right, it's like this story I'm telling in my head, but I also didn't have an exact direction of what specifically are you going to do, what specifically in crypto, like what tech specifically in crypto, because there's a lot to it. It was just like I had a vaguely defined thing of, I'm going to do this. And I mean, we don't need to go over it again, how it's turned out. It wasn't for naught, but it's like at some point, all right, given conditions and limited amount of time and energy and limited opportunities out there, and just kind of your own, do you still have the spark to continue that? Like, not that, kind of pivoting into this where there's like a thread of what I described with agentic payments, blah, 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 and who knows what will happen where, and I would say even with my time in public service, where maybe, just maybe, there's still, it's not even just about the tech, where it's like that public service and everything you learned from it, and reflecting on what you actually enjoyed out of it and maybe were good at, now mixed with like this new tech, like maybe that can actually be brought together and it's not just for nothing and you throw it away. And yeah, just, I don't know, I've kind of gone back and forth of like, maybe I should go back to crypto, maybe I'm just throwing my time away there, I don't know. But it's like, what am I going to do in it? I'm not really interested in being a security researcher. Yeah, I kind of picked up early enough in my time on Twitter when I focused on it full time, starting like March 2025 was, like this new community of people I was connecting with. I picked up pretty quickly of like, man, there's a whole lot of people trying to be security researchers. Like, surely this isn't sustainable and this is going to crash. And it did. I mean, it's like there were these platforms where you could do bug bounties for like various projects where you try to find bugs, submit them, and get a payout. And, like sometimes it was a large payout. And, I think for people who are in like developing countries, yeah, these like small payments that like for you might mean nothing, for them it's like a lot. But a lot of these like companies that did this have closed, etc. I mean, just with AI, that gotta go fast on a side street. A lot of those, a lot of that went under. And it's the thing where like the people who've been in it, doing it for a while, like are generally doing well, but not all. Even like long timers and that have just, opportunities have dried up. They've like lost jobs or moved on, where it's like, it's one of those, you're going to like that security research hasn't really interested me. I did it early on for just like a little bit to try it out on some of like the practice stuff. But I just knew enough where like, man, you are auditing somebody else's work. And it's like you're never making your own thing. And just something about that I didn't like. We're like, hey, I would like to create my own thing, not just always be checking somebody else's work. So, and I knew that wasn't quite my thing. Like the development side, more interested in, mixed with some security, obviously. So that you're developing stuff securely. But I like with the development side too, it's kind of a, well, which direction do you go in with that now? And I've looked around a little bit, and the problem is I think there aren't that many jobs, and you're competing with all the people who lost jobs and did that professionally while you didn't. And just, I don't know, I'm not sure like the spark is quite there for that. Like, it's neat, it's interesting, but I don't know, I'm not so sure right now. That I don't think going back and doing more of that is going to be good. And I think it's just a recipe for me to waste a whole lot of time, and very likely just burn out even further, and potentially end up quitting and giving up, checking out, and just, I don't know. I will go get a job at a grocery store and probably just play video games again, which I can, so I think it was a thing where I could see the timelines forming, folks, of the opportunities in the past that are now so clear, of the things that opportunities and things you could have done that you did or didn't do, and how it's all in this, it's like this thread that you chose and it's led to this moment. And now I can see what's been laid open in front of me, where, this is maybe one good thing of being a chronic overthinker, being older, just kind of being able to do a lot of thinking, analyzing, being analytical. You kind of develop a certain pattern recognition where you can have a pretty good sense where you're like, man, if I had done that before, man, I would have really regretted that. And, you can now just kind of see you can see things now too, where I could see the people that I've, like the community that I've been with on Twitter, where you kind of see if people have dropped off or went on and did this or that, where like, some of the people were like, man, this crypto stuff is not doing me any good. I'm going to go do systems, whatever, cloud AI. And they like got jobs. And other people who, man, they are very consistent. And it's like, whoa, this is very cool consistency. They're working hard. But it's like, man, I don't think this thing you're doing is going to get you anywhere. And you can see man, I think they're just going to have to find out in their own way, like this path you're on where you're like a year and a half into doing whatever, like day 400 and whatever as a book. Like, man, I'm like the only person that ever gives you a like on any of your posts or any acknowledges what you're doing. Like, I don't know. It's like you can see the patterns where, like, yeah, I don't think that's going to really lead that person anywhere now. Where it's like these things where there was a time for it, where the golden age for these jobs, and probably like a few years ago, where people were just kind of being hired left and right. All that's now long over, long gone. And I don't know, just the point of it is I could now really see. You never really know, right? You never really know what could have happened or what couldn't have happened, or what opportunities might come up. But I think you do develop a pretty good sense of how something will go, or will it take you to a better position, or just kind of spin your wheels and waste your time. I mean, I really I look back at just some of the things where I briefly considered long ago, oh, I should get a master's in library science. And I'm like, it was towards the end of my days as a shelver. And I'm like, man, I'm glad I never did that. It's one of those, like, it's this very niche field that you will hit a ceiling in early, and that's kind of it. And there's not much more after. And you're competing for this, like, ever dwindling amount of, like, opportunities that, man, it's like these little choices, like I said, these timelines that you can see if you had done this, what that would have led to, of like, man, I'm so glad I did not do that. And when I kind of made the transition from shelver to doing customer service, and was like so scared of social anxiety and talking to people and this and that, and I almost a couple of times like went and took jobs doing like overnight stalking at a grocery store, of like, I want to go back to shelving food. Right? I'm just so glad. It's another one of those things I can see clearly now, that I am so glad I did not ever go through with that. That would have been really bad. That's one of those, man, you have chosen the bad end. You have chosen the bad timeline, that running away from a thing you're nervous about doing would have been really, really bad. Think I would have just fallen into this was a bad choice, but I will just now do this job and run out the clock on my life, right? You kind of just check out, go to your job, come home, play video games until the years run out of but I don't know. I mean, that's still a possibility of happening, right? You make a bad choice and the apathy and spark just completely wins over, or like you lose your spark and the apathy grows more, and it's just like you don't have any more fight in you to keep trying, keep whatever. And it's like, I will just go get some job, and I will probably cope with video games and frozen burritos. And I don't know, you could in a weird way make the case for that, in a messed up way, where, I don't know, sometimes you look at the state of the world and you're like, man, I think as you get older and older, man, that you just don't have as much of a fight in you, do you? And the desire to just, man, I want to plug back into the Matrix is understandable, and in a weird, messed up way, you could make a case for it, of just like, why try, right? I'm not actually seriously considering that, but you can entertain Like, you can consider that without wanting to do it, where you can entertain and understand how people do that and fall into it. And like, man, if I don't do this carefully, that may very well still be the timeline I fall into. I think I have a much better now understanding with Alex. So he was the longtime friend I had that passed away 2022 now, September. So that's almost about a 4-year anniversary of that. That genuinely very smart guy that could have done anything. And I know it's like a thing where people say, "Oh, he's so smart, he could have," like, no, very smart, very charismatic, but drank a lot. And we always thought, like, man, is the alcohol gonna do him in? But it was like, yeah, I mean, I never found out exactly what it was, but I'm pretty sure he started hanging out with a old high school buddy who was a drug user slash seller, took some stuff, and that's that. But anyway, this very genuinely smart guy that could have done anything, but didn't, and now he can't. And I would always look back of like, man, why do you just take these like menial jobs and just you go to some menial job somewhere? And he would come home and I think just drink, play video games. No, always very sad to see of like, man, you could be doing so much more. And because he would have these sparks here and there where get a little clean, try to like work on something where like you could see like, man, this guy has got potential. But I'd always view that sadly of like, man, you just go to some job, you come home and drink and play video games. And but now, in a way, I certainly can understand. I don't agree with it. I don't think it's something that anyone should do. I'm not saying that's what I want to do, but I certainly now understand where, man, you just become apathetic and don't care. You don't care for whatever happens in your life, and just, also outside circumstances where you check out, folks. You give up the fight. You just don't want to try. And I will rather just go do something at IKEA furniture, unload at IKEA furniture, and come home and play video games, and that's that. And it's like now I'm at a point in life where I certainly understand. And if I'm not careful, may very well potentially be my reality. Not necessarily like IKEA and drinking, but I think you know what I mean, where you just lose you give up on the fight and wanting to try, and you just check out. And yeah, I mean, I also think back of the opportunity that I had when I graduated from college, started you got a computer science degree, which is completely useless. Yeah, the school eventually got shut down for basically being a scam school, but it doesn't matter, whatever. I got offered an Oracle database internship. It was unpaid, but it's one of those, I don't think about it too much, and man, one of those what could have been, right? If instead of you went from college to shelving books because you just didn't know what to do and were scared and nervous and this, that, you're like, all right, what if I go for this opportunity? What could have been, right? What would that timeline have been like? But I see that now. I've got enough of this pattern recognition of things where I can kind of see it forming again in front of me, where here's how this crypto stuff went. It's all very been loosely defined, unclear. I've pivoted into a more better direction, but now there's something a little more concrete that has unexpectedly formed that I was not planning, like a new timeline that I was not even thinking about. And, I might, well, this isn't this, well, isn't that. And I don't know. It's like, I think I want to be, of all the various stuff I can do, I would say this is maybe the more practical, pragmatic, kind of builds on my skills and things like that. This might be, especially with some of these very early opportunities for networking that have come up, I think that's probably a sign to not take that for granted and to waste it. And to not, like, all right, whatever happens with these phone calls, interviews, like, I probably need to go all in this direction. Maybe further, like, explore the next certifications, things like that. I don't think I should take this for granted and to waste it. Even if it wasn't what I kind of envisioned. I mean, I don't even know exactly what it'll lead to, but, just conceptually, if I take a step back where it's an opportunity to potentially, like, help people solve problems, right? Which I miss, that's what I miss about the library. It's just in a different sense, but like the core idea of it. And if I hate kind of doing this now where it's going to sound very Machiavellian or something, and you're like trying to play some kind of power games or something like that, but you do have to be strategic too, where, all right, man, you kind of don't know too many people, don't have too many connections. You've got a potentially promising direction, and you really don't want to probably waste it. And if you think of where I was going with this was, I mean, a good way to get people to like you is to help them solve some kind of a problem, right? I mean, I think you would probably agree with that, right? Where, like, if you help people solve problems, like, you really go out of your way and do your best and you help people solve some kind of problems, they will probably like you, right? And if you, like, go around to lots of places and you help all sorts of people try to solve problems, you will probably have a number of people out there that, will end up, oh, this guy's helpful and will like you. And, if it's people that can make something happen in your life, right? I think you get where I'm going with this, where, like, that's not to be, I don't want to, like, I don't know what this job will ultimately be like, but I can conceptualize roughly what it could lead to, where you probably don't want to take that for granted. Again, if you go around and you help all sorts of people solve problems, you will have a number of people who will probably like you or think, oh, this person was very helpful. And if they can make stuff happen in your life, well, you can kind of see where I'm going with this, where, I'm not trying to be, everything needs to be some transactional thing where, like, what do I get out of it? But from a, like, man, I don't really have a whole lot going on. I'm willing to learn. I love to help people. And I'm also well aware that I need to really build up a network of people who can make stuff happen for you, and I can help them. You see where I'm going with this, right? Where, again, it ties back to this kind of FDE role and my understanding of it as best as I can, where there is like strategic, practical matters too in it. That, you do kind of have to acknowledge that I'm not very, everything I've described so far, like, it's a level of deeper strategic thinking that I'm not used to, but I know that I better sure as heck better start be thinking about and acknowledging, because it's not just, I just go out there and work hard and I'm a good person. Like, well, it's not really how the world works, right? So I think hopefully you understand where I'm going with this. I think it's a long-winded point where this new potential, this new thread, this new timeline that's opened up, like, not that it's guaranteed, it may very well go nowhere. But I think this is probably the one that I don't want to really pass up, even if it's what I didn't plan or even envision with my life, didn't even know about. But one that I think can build on kind of my trajectory in public service, interest in tech, ability to learn quickly, just genuinely try to, I don't know, I'll take a good crack at trying to help somebody. Maybe I'll fail, but I'll try to understand the issue and try to help. That I really don't. Yeah, this is where kind of reflecting back on mistakes and now looking at what's laid out in front of you, where it's like, man, I think I will really regret if I don't go trying to pursue this direction. I don't know where it's going to go. I don't know. I don't know a lot of stuff, but the one thing I do know is that this is probably, yeah, I don't know how many different ways I can now say that, man, I really don't pass this up, George. Don't F this up, right? Again, whatever happens with these calls, interviews, it's okay. It's like overall this direction, like don't pass it up. I think this is maybe a bit more promising and interesting than other things, where I don't think this might be a little bit more pragmatic, something a little more real and tangible than this, oh, I'm just endlessly, I don't know, at home working on projects that nobody cares about and helps nobody and doesn't solve any problems so yeah. Choose wisely, George. Choose wisely, Picnic Man. Because, yeah, it's like I see a short window of opportunity to really try to go in this, and I think I will really regret it if I don't. Unexpected, but I think that's how maybe you gotta be, where you can just recognize what's coming up and like, hey, all right, I kind of pulled on this thread, didn't expect this to start happening, and I really should. Anyway, you get the point. I don't mean to repeat this. I need to follow this direction wherever it ultimately goes. Otherwise, I will really, really regret it. Because, man, the apathy has kind of grown a little bit. The spark has kind of died down. Like the novelty has worn off on things, and it's like, man, I got fight left in me, but it's not as much as it was. Or it's like, oh, okay, well, that's how that turned out. So I better do this very carefully, right? I think, it's more than just working hard. I think it's the aspects where you want to work smart so that the thing you're working hard on is taking you towards somewhere that might have a more concrete payoff, not this vague, I'm working hard on a thing that won't matter. And also to move fast, as I discovered with the Super Repo project. I saw, all right, this thing is early. Doesn't seem like you can do much with it, but you can do something. So like, man, you better move quickly. And, I can just kind of recognize it now, where it's like these random little things you'll get into, where I was messing around with Linux. There's like this new distro, Omarchy. I'm probably not pronouncing it well. He's the guy who created Ruby on Rails and Basecamp. It's like meant to be more like AI, more like suited where your AI can make changes to it. Like, I spent the day kind of messing around with it. was pretty fun, but you know, it's that, okay, yeah, this was fun, but I don't think this is gonna take me in any good direction right now. I'm like, I better back off. All right. This was fun. You know, maybe if I was on a different phase in life or like my situation was different, but like, man, I probably should not be doing this right now. So yeah, we'll see. So I need to get back home, upload this, go have a workout, have a nice meal, and do some studying for an interview tomorrow. So yeah, things are getting interesting. It's certainly unexpected. Just a very weird, I don't know, just a weird time now that I can't really describe, where it's like, whoa, man, just things are, you know, the Kool-Aid, like with crypto, wore off. Just a lot of other stuff where it's like, man, you're a little jaded. You don't view things the same way anymore. You can see things, certain other things, a lot more clearly. You're just like, man, what a weird time. And it's, yeah, there's that slightly gnawing part about, man, you could just make the case for giving up, checking out. I will go push carts at a grocery store. I will go clock into a place, come home, reestablish that work-life balance where you're not kind of doing everything out of your room. I don't know, but I'm not ready to give up, folks. I'm tired. He's tired with a D and T. I'm tired. The spark is kind of waned, but I am not going to give up that easily. So I'm just going to have to be a whole lot smarter about it now. And we'll see. We'll see if I was right or it was just another delusion. I don't know. But anyway, I think I've talked for enough. I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.